Hey geometry students, in this video we are going to be talking about proofs. Okay, so this is our first lesson about proofs, and proofs are one of the hardest things you're going to do in geometry. But the good news is we're not going to start with geometric proofs, which are a little bit harder because they're a little bit less familiar. We're going to start with algebraic proofs. I'm going to show you how to prove the solution to an algebraic equation. Okay, what does x equal? Beyond the shadow of a doubt, we're going to understand what x equals, because step by step I'm going to justify exactly what I'm doing. So what is a proof? A proof is an argument that usually starts with a set of givens and theorems and postulates and things that we already know are true. And then we use logic to show that a conclusion is true based on our arguments. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start with letter A. Solve the equation x plus 5 equals 4x plus 2. Wait a second, how do I know that x plus 5 equals 4x plus 2? Whatever I start with is given. Okay, so x plus 5 equals 4x plus 2. Now I need to do some work to this to figure out what x is. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So it's going to be x minus 4x plus 5 equals 4x minus 4x plus 2. That is the subtraction property of equality. I can simplify this quite a bit. X minus 4x is negative 3x. I still have a plus 5 equals 4x minus 4x is now 0 plus 2 is 2. This step I'm just going to say that I'm simplifying. Anytime you combine like terms or do a simple arithmetic step, like where you're dividing 5 by 2 or something like that, that's simplification. Next, I need to subtract 5 from both sides. Minus 5 equals 2 minus 5. Once again, that is the subtraction property of equality. Okay, now when I follow through here, it's negative 3x plus 5 minus 5. That's just going to be negative 3x equals negative 3. Again, I simplified. I need to divide this by negative 3 and this by negative 3. And we're going to show that like this. All right, so we're the division property of equality. X equals 3, x equals 1, I'm sorry, when I simplify. And now I know what x equals, so I'm done. My final step in an algebraic proof is just going to be whatever x equals at the end. All right, let's do letter B. Solve the equation 4x plus 5 over 3. I'll put that in a second. 5x plus 7 over 4. Okay, let's do that. Given. Okay, that's my given. Now, what am I going to do next? I can multiply both sides of this equation by the same thing. In this case, I want to multiply both sides of this equation by 12. So it's going to be 12 times 4x plus 5 over 3. I'll get that over 3 in a second. Equals 12 times 5x plus 7 over 4. I'll get that in a second. This is going to be the multiplication property of equality, which says I can multiply both sides of an equation by the same thing. Next thing I can do is simplify. The simplification step is going to be, so 12 over 3 is 4. So I'm going to be left with 4 times 4x plus 5. I simplified the 12 over 3. 12 over 4 is 3 times 5x plus 7. That is a simplify step. All right, next, 4 times 4x plus 4 times 5 equals 3 times 5x plus 3 times 7. Do you know what I did there? I used the distributive property of multiplication. I get rid of my parentheses so I can move forward on this problem. That's what I needed to do. Now I'm going to do another simplification step. This is going to be 16x plus 20 equals 15x plus 21. That's a simplify. Okay, next I'm going to subtract 15x from both sides. 16x minus 15x plus 20 equals 15x minus 15x plus 21. That is the subtraction property of equality. That's going to get my x term on a side by itself. So 16x minus 15x is just x plus 20 equals, let's see, 15x minus 15x is going to cancel that out, equals 21. So this is just another simplify step. And then lastly, I'm going to do x plus 20 minus 20 equals 21 minus 20. I subtracted 20 from both sides. That's the subtraction property of equality. That's going to give me x equals 1. There we go. X equals 1 in this case as well. Now, letter C is a little break from the hard ones. In letter C, I am given all of the proof. On the left side, all of the steps are correct. On the right side, it looks like these are all mixed up. So we need to figure out what got used. So let's just take a look. 2/3 x plus 6 equals 4 minus 2x. That is given. Step 1, 2x plus 18 equals 12 minus 6x. It seems like the multiplication property of equality was used to multiply both sides times 3. All right, next, we have 2x equals negative 6 minus 6x. Why, that was the subtraction property of equality that was used to subtract 18 from both sides. And now we go from this to 8x equals negative 6. That's the addition property of equality because we added 6x to both sides. And then lastly, when I divide both sides by 6, by 8, divide both sides by 8, I get x equals negative 2/3. That's the division property of equality. So all we had to do was identify the correct order of steps. That is the correct order of steps. And then we're finally on to letter D. The area of a rectangular floor of a shed is 40 yards squared. The length of the shed is x plus 2. The width is x plus 1. Find the dimensions of the shed. Okay, so first of all, something important is what am I given? Area equals 40 yards squared is a given. Okay, so I'm just going to note that as a given. The other thing I know is that width equals, let's see, x minus 1. That's a given. And length equals x plus 2. That's a given. Okay, I'm going to take out my labels, my unit labels for now because they're not really important yet, but I could put unit labels on all of this stuff. Okay, next, let's see, I need to calculate the dimensions of the shed, the width and the length. Well, I know that area equals length times width. That is the formula for the area of a rectangle. That is a given formula. We know that that formula is always true, okay? So what am I going to do next? I'm going to do area equals, well, instead of length, I want to use x plus 2. Can I do that? And instead of width, I want to use x minus 1. Why, that's the substitution property of equality. If something is equal to something else, I can just substitute it in. Next thing that I'm going to have to do here is multiply these together with FOIL. That seems like it's going to be a really hard thing to justify in a proof, but really it's not that bad because all I'm doing is simplifying. Using FOIL is simplification. Okay? The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to note that the area is 40. 40 equals this. Again, that's a substitution property of equality because I was given that. And then I wonder if we got 0 on a side by itself. So if I did 40 minus 40 equals this minus 40. Notice what I'm going to end up with on the left side is a 0. That was just the subtraction property of equality. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is just simplify. So it's going to be 0 equals x squared minus x minus 42, right? That's a simplify step. Okay. So next, I'm going to do 0 equals an x minus x plus situation. So x plus something, x minus something. Let's see. Factors of 42 are 6 and 7, and I have a positive x in the middle. So if I'm doing x plus 7, x minus 6. What did I do there? All I did was I factored a trinomial. And I know that this is the same thing as what's above. I factored a trinomial, and now I have a factored trinomial equal to 0. I know that x can't come from this because if x, so I need to make a factor here that will multiply this to equal 0, or a factor here that will multiply this to equal 0. To make this 0, I'd have to use negative 7 for x. But if I use negative 7 for x, my length and width would be negative, and I can't have negative length and width measurements. So I'm going to say that x equals 6, and that's a simplification step because I know that x has to equal 6 for this to equal 0. Okay, now am I done with the problem yet? The question was find the dimensions of the shed. I'm not actually done yet though because I haven't found the dimensions. I need to go back and do width equals 6 minus 1 equals, let's see, I don't want to skip a step. So width equals 6 minus 1. I substituted extra, so that's a substitution property of equality. Okay, so what does that mean? Width equals 5 is a simplifying step. The length equals 6 plus 2. Okay, so that's a substitution property of equality. And then the length equals 8 is a simplification step. All right, that's how you do it. So you are going to practice showing every single step as you work out problems like this in the next lesson. Make sure you do that as you work numbers 1 through 30.